Boost, starring James Woods of True Believer and Sean Young of No Way Out. 4 stars, Roger Ebert.
Mr. Brown.
Only Lenny.
Lenny's the talent in the family.
What do you want?
Everybody wants a taste of Beverly Hills.
It's a dream.
You want to wake up?
No.
We made a deal. Your client is committed. Want to blame me for an IRS upheaval that decimated tax shelter business across the country?
You need a boost, kid.
Thank you.
James Woods.
Stick with me.
Sean Young.
Till I fall off the earth.
In an unforgettable story of love and the price of success. The Boost.
Hey, welcome back to Dave's Movie Diary. Today's film is The Boost from 1988, starring James Woods and Sean Young. It's a film that I realised I hadn't seen before, even though it's, 38 years old. I thought I'd seen it. There's a few like this. When I started watching it, I realised I hadn't seen it. I can usually remember when I've seen a film, and I know I haven't seen this one. So first time watch. Big James Woods fan. He's so watchable in all the films I've seen him in, so had to check it out. What's this one about? James Woods is what is he? What would you call him these days? Well, he's a salesman, really. He's trying to get his business up and running. It's not really happening. He meets an older guy, decides to move to Los Angeles with the promise of selling property there, and quickly finds success, probably a little bit too quickly. And Sean Young is along for the ride. She's a lot more conservative. She's happy with what she's got. His character seems to believe that he needs to treat her like a princess. He doesn't want her to work. He's got that old school mentality, really. I should be able to provide for my partner, and I'm going to make a ton of money no matter what. And he does really well. He's got more money than he knows what to do with. And then he starts making some questionable decisions because of that. He meets a character out there who's ultra successful, and him and his partner are way into cocaine. And eventually James Woods' character gets drawn into that culture of cocaine and fast living. And Sean Young also gets drawn in to a lesser extent. What the film, partway through, it's obvious that this is actually an anti-drug film, and the cocaine use spirals out of control. There's some crack cocaine use as well. And the relationship goes down the tubes, so does his ambition. Their emotional stability is tested, and it's really, like I said, a cautionary anti-drugs film. That's the way it plays out. Now, this was a really odd film for me. It starts out going down a certain direction, and it ends up somewhere completely different. Initially, I felt that both of them were really well cast. Like I said, love James Woods. He's got so much energy. His eyes are always darting around the place. He's got this long, angular face. He screams 80s for me. He was a huge star in the 80s. And I loved most of the films that he was in back then. I think I've seen most of them. Let's see, Videodrome, the Cronenberg one. That's an elite film. I've got to check that out again soon. What else? He was in Cop and Bestseller. Great films. The Hard Way with Michael J. Fox. He was in a lot of films. Against All Odds, actually. That's another one with Jeff Bridges. Salvador, of course, the Oliver Stone film. And he just chewed up a lot of scenery. He actually showed a lot of cocaine energy for me. He had that jittery, jangly sort of dynamic going on. Interestingly, in this one, he's really playing it straight down the line. As in terms of, he's playing a normal guy, really, just an average guy. And he's really goofy. really goofy actually for him, which is really different. He's ambitious, but very insecure, eager to impress, quite earnest, very naive actually. When he gets out to LA, all of this is really unusual for him because he's normally really cunning, manipulative, hyper controlled. I saw Against All Odds not that long ago, and this is like a complete 180 to that character. Like I said, this guy's really, I think naive and goofy sums it up. There's a scene, at one point where after things crash and burn, the couple moves to a much smaller town in California, and he decides to open a surf shop. And one of his proteges, who's actually a surfer, is moving to Australia of all places, and gives Woods his surfboard. James Woods is there in his jeans and his sneakers, and he picks up the board and he's running up the hill to meet Sean Young, and his arms are flying out everywhere. He's flapping around like a geek with this massive surfboard under his arm. It's just so funny. He just does not strike me as a surfer at all. He's got this giant grin on his face like a big puppy dog. Really awkwardly enthusiastic, which is anti James Woods in nearly every other thing I've seen him in. Sean Young starts out really well too. She's someone who's got an interesting career. By this point, she'd just come out of No Way Out with Costner, where she was smoking in that one, and had a really critical role in that film, and definitely was a big part of why that film worked. Obviously, Blade Runner, iconic film, and she has a really interesting, again, major role in that. She sort of flitted around a bit in between Blade Runner and No Way Out. This film was very problematic for her. I won't go into it too much, but she ended up in court with James Woods, and there were allegations that she was fixated on him to the point where he had to take action. And from there, her career really went off the rails. And if you look on YouTube, you can probably find her audition tape for Batman Forever as Catwoman, the role that Michelle Pfeiffer landed. There's some interesting stories. Anyway, I'll leave it there. She's really believable at the start of this film. She's someone who's convincingly overwhelmed by the move to LA from New York, and the excess and the fast life and the shallowness that she encounters there, the cocaine culture. She just wants stability. She tells him James Woods is keen to get out there in his sharkskin suit and make an impression because he's got to press the flesh to sell all these properties. She just wants to stay home. She wants the stability, the normality. He's enough for her, but she's not enough for him because he's got this fixation that he's got to treat her like a queen and give her everything she wants and even what she doesn't want. So she's the one that's trying to hold the relationship together. The early scenes between them actually feel really natural and grounded, and so it goes off well for a while. Then the film, at some point, loses total control. It's really when the cocaine spiral intensifies, and the film's trying to show, obviously, the evils of the drug and what happens if you get into it too deep. A bit like, Scarface has a similar effect in that the rise of the Tony Montana character, Al Pacino's character, is really exciting and by far the best part of the film. And then once he ascends to the top, and the down and the slide is nowhere near as interesting, and it's not handled as well. This one is similar, but it's nowhere near the level that Scarface gets to on the rise. So we just don't care as much by the time the train goes off the tracks. Lots of things go wrong. James Woods' performance, he gets out of control a bit too quickly for my liking in some of the early scenes. And then in the second part of the film, he's just going off at every opportunity. He goes too far. I blame the directing for that, for some of it, the script. but his performance just isn't as convincing in those parts. And there's a scene where he gets into crack cocaine, and he comes up with this interesting idea about getting into bed with Saudi princes to sell properties. And he pitches this idea to, I think it's a couple of lawyers actually, who are involved in property on behalf of the Saudis. Anyway, they go to this local restaurant, and he's in and out of the bathroom, sniffing up heaps of coke. And he loses it, but he loses it way too much that's realistic for me, and it lost me by then, and there was still probably 20 or 25 minutes to go. The other thing is the tone is really uneven, and his performance is another example. He'll do something crazy, like there's a scene where he punches out Sean Young, ultra-violent domestic scene, but then he's instantly apologetic and calm and remorseful. And I know that the film's probably trying to portray what drugs can do to you, but I just don't think those emotional shifts are realistic enough. I think they happen too quickly and too often. And I think instead of tragic deterioration, which is a gradual process, it starts feeling hysterical, very melodramatic. The film eventually feels like a TV movie, like a movie of the week that used to be a big thing in the US in the 80s and 90s. It's got that flat tone to it that, and then even the music's quite tame, and then there's these uneven performances that ramp up in the second part. So yes, Woods' performance, but also the script, the tone, the directing, it rushes the emotional escalation instead of a gradual build-up, which would have been far more satisfying, and we would have been along for the ride. Sean Young as well. Generally, I probably don't rate her greatly as an actress, with range, with depth. But like I said, she starts out quite well in the early scenes. I'm sympathising with her. She seems vulnerable, believable. I think it's when the drug use kicks in and she becomes pregnant, and then she eventually loses the baby, and towards the end she's really reactive and passive and delivering her lines like she's reading them off palm cards, emotionally flat. There's one scene after a confrontation with James Woods where he's on the floor trying to sniff up coke. Just a terrible reading from her, and sums up her performance in the second half of the film, but also the film's tone in general. So for me, I thought once James Woods' collapse takes center stage, she's really a minor character, and it's like she realizes that. I guess it's hard to tell too at what point the bizarre behavior started with her, or alleged bizarre behavior. Maybe that was taking an effect on her performance in the film. I'm not sure. I do think that uneven tone is probably the film's biggest weakness. The constant swings between realistic aspects and then melodrama, and then it gets very heavy-handed. It nearly seems like a cautionary lecture, or like a don't do this, drugs are bad, over the top, very muddled drama, and without a smooth transition or enough build up with the characters. And also the domestic abuse scenes feel like they're just shoved in there to really say, hey, drugs are bad. It's a bit excessive, not handled well. The movie goes from 0 to 100 repeatedly, and the effect just doesn't work. So, like I said, it feels a lot like a late 80s television drama, which it may well be, but considering the people in this, especially James Woods, I was expecting a lot more. So there's not enough subtlety or atmosphere. The score is terrible, and I think the film is really over prioritizing the message instead of a much more emotionally rewarding film experience. So, talking about anti-drug films, other ones that come to me off the top of my head are Scarface, which I watched recently, which I know was written by Oliver Stone, partly to try and get back at a drug that was rife in Hollywood and society at the time. And also Traffic, the Soderbergh movie from 2000, which I'm a big fan of. I think it's one of his better films. I mean, it is a bit... It's probably not appropriate that I'm mentioning The Boost alongside those two films, because for me, Scarface is far more entertaining. The performances are a lot better. There's a lot more cinematic style. The soundtrack is great. You really feel something for the vast majority of that film. It's only towards the end it goes off its lane a little bit. Traffic is a fantastic dramatic film. And you really feel for the characters. Again, it's got some excellent performances in it. So, and it shows at a wider level the damage that narcotics do to our society. This one's a much smaller film, obviously for budgetary reasons, but it's a much more intimate film, but it just doesn't work. So maybe this one... Maybe if you take it to heart, then it would scare you away from using cocaine, because the Woods character is so abrasive and so unstable and unlikable from such a promising start, where he is really such a nice guy and a believable character. So, yeah, very mishmashed film, very uneven. Starts off, I thought, with some strong casting, quite a believable setup and story, some interesting character dynamics, but it gradually loses emotional credibility as the story escalates and the drug use escalates. Woods is always incredibly watchable, even when he's bad, and this is probably the first time, or one of the few times I've ever seen him put in a bad performance. I get why they had him in this film, because he's got that manic energy and fearlessness, but I think it just goes too far. He gets too erratic, and I just couldn't connect with him emotionally. Sean Young started strong, but her character gets reduced to a very minor role, and it's like she realizes that and stopped trying. So my takeaway is maybe this film is better as a snapshot of the late 80s reaction to cocaine and to drugs, and it's something that you'd nearly expect to be put out from the Reagan era government as a public warning, rather than a really truly great addiction drama. So there it is. I was fairly disappointed with this one. Started out well with two well-cast characters, but it traded that in for the message, and that's when it lost me. So I can't really recommend this unless, like me, you wanted to tick a box for James Woods. Apart from that, enter with caution. I do know that some well-known film critics and podcasters quite like this film, so maybe it's just my take, and that's the great thing about talking about films. It's just an opinion, but now you've got mine, so enjoy. Catch you next time.